going to call it the front. We're going to call that the right view, the left view, the back. This would be the bottom and the top. Okay. For the bottle, it's going to be a little different because you really just need two views for the bottle, and we're going to do a top and a front. All right. And then for each, if you look at the assignment sheet, we're going to do 2 or 3 views axonometric. Okay, so this would be one here, and maybe another one lying sideways like that. And then for the bottle, we just need to construct very schematic. So those are the 4 sketches. Now these are really worth like only 5 points, so don't worry too much about them. But try to get your your hand going and your movement going. So let's just say that for the carton, what you need to figure out is roughly the proportion. So you need to block it out, and you need to plan your drawing so that you have enough room. Okay, and depending whether it's square, depending whether it's tall, the main thing is that the relationships are the same with each other, with all the different views. The thing that changes is on top here. So let's just say if I make it like this, let's say that's my front. Well, first of all, you'll find that once you start laying it out, maybe you can do a couple of sketches to see like more or less how they fit, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be quickly running out of space myself. Okay, that looks pretty good. But you can see the proportion now. That was kind of funny. The proportion is a little off, so this is a little taller, so I probably need to shorten it. Okay, once I get one side, so this is wrong, right? This is much taller than it is wider, so this is not quite right. It's probably even more like that. Okay, then you get the other views. Just like that. I'm gonna go a little quicker because I'm going to run out of the time on the video, and I want to get the bottle, and then I can go over it again a little more in detail. And that's the other view right here. So the bottom would be here, and in this case it's probably a square. So pay attention to like the orientation. So if I did this, that would be wrong, right? Because if I'm looking at it like this, I turn it, and that's my view. Actually, it's right there, like that. So this is wrong. There are instructions about doing a title block around the drawing. That's on the front page in iLearn. And then what you want to do is put a couple of labels. Okay. Somebody asked about the drawings and whether they should be freehand. Yeah, these 4 drawings, they can be freehand, and you can, again, clean them up a little bit. By cleaning them up, I don't mean like erasing them, but just taking a straight edge and doing some lines that are like, maybe touching them up a little bit. Or you can do the whole thing freehand, so don't worry too much about it. I think you should do the part where you lay it out freehand to kind of get a sense of where everything is and get a sense of the proportions, okay? So once again, if you have your carton, decide which one is your front, and then that's the view from the right, that's the view from the left, the view from the top, the view from the bottom, and then all the way back is the back. So take a quick look at the lettering resource, and also there's a template to do the border and a title block, and it shows you like how big a border around the. Just be careful, don't cut yourself. But a border around your sheet is to line it up with something, like the edge of your desk or something, and then you can use your fingers as a little guide. Okay, so I'm going to use that as a little spacer, and then you can do a pretty straight line like that. Okay, so that's your little marker. Okay, so once again, the main thing is that your parts are in relationship to each other. So for example, here, this view should correspond, this width should correspond to this width. In other words, this is kind of moving this way, and this is moving this way. This is going this way. And depending on where your roof is, this line will be either this way or that way. So you could decide that your front is, this view, so things would shift. Okay. Now for the orthographic, the simplest not orthographic, for the isometric, for the axonometric, the simplest one is the isometric, and that is where you use the angles of your drawing for your, in this case, horizontals, using more or less the angle of your triangle, of the 30-60 triangle. Okay, these are small ones, but you need to get bigger ones, right? And get a set that's pretty good. Okay, so that's one, and then the other one is like that, right? Where this is 45. And this is 30 degrees, and this is 60 degrees. And really all that means is that, if you have 360, 45-degree angle is this one. So this one is 45. And then at 30 degrees, since this is 90, would be here. Okay, so that's the set. And the advantage of that angle is that, for example, a cube you can easily inscribe into a circle, essentially. And then with the compass you could even draw it like this, and it would give you all these points. You could draw a cube that way. But you can experiment. So let's go back to the one that I drew before. Let's talk about pencils. So a lot of people like the type of mechanical pencil where you just push and the lead comes out rather. So I'm zooming now. You won't see the zooming in the video, unfortunately, because it's a different lens, right? So my preference is actually for this guy, and the reason for that. Okay, let me see if I can see. Oh, this doesn't have anything. All right, let's just take these two. They look pretty cool, huh? When they're so big. And the reason for that is that even though this is small, you can see that I'm never going to get any sharper than that, right? Because that's a set thickness. With this guy, however, which has got I can sharpen it with this gadget, which is it's a little more money, and you have to buy an extra. They have a slightly different model, but you sharpen it this way. remember, whenever you do a mark, it's never going to be right. It's always going to be either to the left or to the right of where you thought, you were going, right? And that's because it's just nature, right? You can't. So it's just a question of tolerances and how close you want to be. So there is then it's almost like a cigarette filter, and then that's how you clean the. So now let's take a look again at that. Oops. And all of a sudden, you can see that point is really pointy. So even if you get, these guys at, point, I think this is 0.5, let me just say. Yeah, this is 0.5 millimeters. It's not as sharp as this one. Now sometimes, that's a pain because you can't keep it this sharp all the time. One way to keep it sharp is to minimize the dulling effect is to actually turn. With the other one, if you turn, it doesn't do anything. But with this, if I turn the pencil, can you see it? It actually keeps the point sharp and does not make it go like this. Okay, so it keeps it round, keeps it even if it gets a little blunt. So anyway, that's my preference, but you guys can use this if you want. Or you can use pencils too. If you use pencils, I would recommend getting yourselves a nice portable sharpener, and unfortunately this particular model they don't make anymore. This is really good with batteries, so you don't have to get up all the time to go to whatever to sharpen. Okay. So we said that for the axonometric, we're going to do at least 2 views, maybe one where it's sitting up straight, and the other view is maybe sideways. Let's see. Okay, and we talked about how, in effect, this could become the sideways view just by turning it like that. All right, so all of a sudden, that's now my surface where it's resting on. Right? It all depends on, oops. Okay, let's move on. So these drawings are already made, so what I'll do is I'll rescan them in this sequence. So this is the view where it's the same, isometric, so 30-30. What happens in that view, this is a little bit off, is that we tend to make these dimensions the same. So this is the same as this. So the distortion is the same, or rather there is no distortion. But if you start changing those angles, if this angle becomes shallower and this one becomes wider, then you have to adjust. So all of a sudden this thing wouldn't look right if you kept this particular distance here, right? Because then all of a sudden it looks like a tube thing. So what we do is we shorten the view that gets more of the angle. Because what happens is this is going to start approaching the real square. If I turn that even more, the extreme case is this, which, by the way, don't do this, okay, in your sketches. Don't use this projection. So in this case, what we do is we cut in half to make it look like it's right. But again, that's 90 degrees. Don't use that for this exercise, okay? It's just too easy. And this sketch just shows how I quickly determined the proportions of this object. So what I did is I took my box and I said, well, that looks about 3:2 proportion, and but it's a little bit less, but it's about right. It's probably 4. It's a little, this, of course, since I did this with another carton, it's a little bit different. But anyway, that's one quick way to, double up or triple up to see how big it is without having to measure it. So from my drawing here, I was pretending that it was like 3 parts for the box, and then the roof is like another part, so it goes up, and then this one is maybe half of that right here, so maybe that's here. Okay, so just little tricks. Once again, to find this line, just take the middle, the real middle. Okay, not the this is not perspective. It's isometric, axonometric. So everything we take it face value. So we split that in half. We raise it. So the top of my roof would be there. And then the other lines, again, are all parallel and not converging. That just shows again, using the triangles. When we start using the triangle, this will become obvious. Once again, try to do your lines just for the beginning now, keeping this motion and not do this. Or if you hold the pencil this way, also you have more room to touch and have a nice support of your arm. If you hold it too close, then you're forced to kind of tilt it, and then you have very little support just on the little finger there. Okay. This drawing just shows that I can find my relationships in the object by using diagonals. So if I wanted to find, for example, the middle of this, I could do 2 diagonals here. At that point, I would draw parallel to that line, and that would give me the half point there, and I could go on like that, right? For the bottle, again, the orthographic is very simple. Well, not super simple, but what it is, it's your top view, now I'm already stuck here because this is, let's see, that's this much, 1, 2, at least it's about 3 times as wide, so 1, 2, 3. So again, you have to block it out, so you can see my drawing here is going to need to go a little bit further out, my framing. Now I just try to get a few proportions. And try to simplify it. I mean, obviously something like this is really, really complicated. And actually, because it's transparent, it's even harder because it's a little confusing. But if you have all these lines, it's up to you, like how detailed you want to get. Just try to get the main shape, because there is enough there to, keep you busy. Now remember, if it is orthographic, the bottom is a straight line, more or less. Okay, I mean it goes in a little bit, but don't show an ellipse. And the same for the top. Don't show an ellipse because you're seeing it straight on, so you're seeing a straight line. Okay, it's all straight lines. It's hard for you to actually abstract that concept because